The Love Your Body podcast is brought to you by Danny D Fitness along with Cinema 83. For those of you who've seen my new LYB gym, you've seen all the amazing equipment in there. My Stairmaster as well as my RXD bench came from Core and Health Fitness. And I'm so honored and excited to have them as a sponsor for this podcast, as they believe in the mission that everyone should move their body and love their body throughout their journey. If you're looking to add pieces of equipment to your home gym, you can reach out to Tony Gray. He's my contact at Core and Health Fitness. His contact is TGRAY at COREHANDF.com. So tell him I sent you and that you heard about him and heard about Core and Health Fitness on the Love Your Body podcast. It was a nice weekend to get away, kind of reconnect, and disconnect.
Yeah.
Which was nice. But anyway, so we're going to start it out. Welcome you on to the Love Your Body podcast.
Thank you.
Nate Edman, yes. Nathaniel. So I can't, I literally first just want to say we have so much to talk about because your life story should be like a documentary. It should be on everywhere. I feel like I'm continually learning. How long have we known each other?
We have 5 or 6 years at least.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm still learning so much about your deal.
Yeah. I feel like I've lived about 3 or 4 or 5, 6 separate lives.
I feel like that too. I do, and so I do want to. We'll take it back in a minute, but first off, I want to say what we got sitting right here. What is this?
Okay,
this is a not fight.
Yes, no, it is not. I get the pleasure of seeing Danny D drink for the first time in how long? It's been quite a long time.
Yeah. A year and a half.
So
over a year and a half.
Anybody that knows me knows I love tequila.
Yeah.
I love sipping tequilas. Just have learned a lot about them over the years.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking about doing this podcast, we were just saying that, just teach you a little bit or just have a little, it would be a good way for you to just kind of indulge yourself a little bit, because we talk about being balanced in everyday life.
Yes.
And, enjoying stuff, but not overindulging, whether that's alcohol or food or some of the many other things
that we're going to talk about.
That we're going to talk about.
Exactly.
So we figured this would be a great way to just let you try some of my good tequilas that I have at home.
Right? You're so excited. So, you look like a kid. He looks like a kid at Christmas. Yes. And I'm so glad that I can bring this joy to you.
Yeah. And we're not gonna hog it all. We're gonna let Logan partake also.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, yes. So this is a Siete Leguas, so it's a Blanco.
Oh my gosh.
We are going to try, and I can kind of smell.
Oh man.
All the fine stuff. So I like to smell my tequilas. You like to not smell any, vanilla flavors or anything like that. So, we just kind of have it room temperature, and we're just going to kind of sip a little bit. We don't shoot tequila.
We're going to sip it.
If it's good tequila, you don't really want to shoot it. You're not trying to just throw it back without tasting it.
Okay.
Good tequilas should taste different with every year that they're distilled. So this may taste a little bit different than the Siete Leguas that's going to be distilled 2 or 3 years from now. Okay. All right. So.
All right. Cheers.
Not bottoms up, but cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh.
Pretty smooth.
How do we feel?
Well,
a little heat for you there. She's like, woo.
You just carry on the podcast without me. Yeah, y'all improvise.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's good. It's not.
What are we looking for here?
Yeah, I don't.
It should be like a very mineral taste. So you should almost, with where this is grown, where the agave is grown, it should be almost a little sweeter taste on the front end. It shouldn't be really, really harsh or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it's like, I'm warm, but I'm okay.
It should not be
burn.
It should not be syrupy or anything like that. So it should just be very.
It ain't thick. It ain't
smooth without being sweet or anything like that.
Okay.
Tell me about the guy that was telling me about the agave and stuff.
Yes.
Can you tell people about that a
Yeah. So you have two different. You have Highlands and Lowlands tequilas, depending on where the agave is grown. And the Highlands is going to be obviously in the mountains, so it's going to be a colder temperature. Generally, if I'm saying this correctly, the plants are going to be a little bit smaller, so your flavors might be a little more dense and compact in there, right? Whereas in the lowlands, it's going to be a warmer climate, going to have a little more earthy flavors, where the agave is a little bit larger, and that. So, yeah. Huh.
I love how everyone listening is probably like, "Wow, her first male guest is corrupting her," and this is what it is. But
That isn't.
no, I love it. I love it.
Honored to be the first male guest.
Yes. No, and I really, because when I was thinking about that, I was like, who would I want? Whose story actually? Because for me, not a lot of people impress me. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna be real.
Yeah.
There's just not. And and I've met a lot of well-off people or whatever, and have had trauma or this or that, whatever. But you really have always impressed me with, one, how you carry yourself, but two, just I know the internal struggles that you go through.
Yes.
And the fact that you continue to keep going when literally you could just be like, fuck it. And and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is something that, I literally, that I deal with a lot, because it's I tell my girls and I tell everybody that I train stuff that you have to actively choose this. There's still days that the workouts are going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's still going to be days where you're tempted to go have that whole pizza. Have the whole bottle of alcohol or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not about that one day it's just, okay, we're good. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right?
It is a continuous fight. And it still is for me, even though I love working out. I love eating healthy. Mm-hmm. I love the way that it makes me feel. I love being fit.
Yeah.
But it still is sometimes a struggle, because it would just be easier not to do anything.
For sure.
Right? And just to give in to all your temptations or anything that's easy.
Yeah.
And, a healthy lifestyle is definitely not the easy choice.
Right.
It will definitely make you feel the best, but it's definitely not the easy choice. And it's a daily, like you said, it's a daily struggle. It's a daily choice to do that.
Yeah. So we said that we know each other 5 years.
Yes.
So from there, so you started at Next Level when? Because that's how we know each other.
So it's been, I started at Next Level Fitness, started my own business there, doing one-on-one personal training. About 9 years ago now. So that is 2014 or so. So, yeah.
So how old were you then?
I was 33.
Okay.
So, and this came, so I was in the service industry, and for me, exercise, working out, changed my life. It structured my life at a time when I really was lost and I really needed direction. And we'll get back to that story in just a moment. But I wanted to get into the fitness industry and do it as a career because where I initially thought I wanted to do it to look better, I realized years looking back that it's actually what gave me mentally and emotionally the confidence and the path to actually help myself. Yeah. So I wanted to pass that on to other people.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. So that's what made me want to transition from the service industry into fitness.
Okay.
I stumbled upon Next Level Fitness because nobody wanted to hire me after I was trained and certified to be a personal trainer. It was two reasons. It was maybe because I was in my early to mid 30s and I'd never had a job in the fitness industry.
Okay.
Or B, I was a convicted felon. And that probably did not even get my toe in the door as soon as that was seen at, your Gold's Gym, YMCA, or any of those places that I was looking to get hired.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, you go into Next Level Fitness, which is a private personal training studio.
Yes.
You meet with Jack. For those who've listened to the podcast, who listened to Mel's story, Jack is Mel's husband.
Who was just here.
Yep, exactly. She's just here.
Yeah.
And so she got to tell her story through her eating disorder and through her recovery and everything. And and so great people. So Jack, being the person he is,
Yes.
took you for who you were.
Yes.
And was like, yeah, how did that go? Like, was he just like, was there any, hesitation, or was he just like?
No. So we had a conversation. We were probably 30 minutes into our conversation, just talking a little bit about everyday life and, what's brought me to this point and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I've come to this decision where in a lot of important decisions where I thought my background might affect something, I'll just go ahead and throw it on out there to people.
Yeah.
I just throw it out there at people and just see what their reaction is.
Right.
Because I didn't want to get into the situation. I didn't want to get into a point where I'd started my own business and I had my own clients and I was in this situation, and then he found out about my past.
Oh, for sure.
Through some other
Like
avenue.
you were hiding it, yeah.
And then he wasn't okay with it, whether he wasn't okay with the whole circumstance of my background, or he wasn't okay with me being upfront with him to begin with. Like he felt like I was lying to him.
Yeah.
30 minutes into our conversation or so, I told him that, as a 19, honestly, it was before that, but as a teenager and as a 20-year-old, I just got into some stuff that I shouldn't have. And that I had gotten arrested for selling cocaine and ecstasy. And he, that I had gone to prison for 10 and a half years of my life. So right after my 21st birthday, I was arrested, and I did not come home a single day until I was well into my 31st, well after I turned 31. So,
God.
But yeah, I told him, and he just looked at me and he was like, "Is that who you are now?" I said, "No, absolutely not." He said, "Well, I have no problem with it if that's not who you are now." So he was like, if you are, willing to hustle and run your own business and, contribute to other people's lives and this environment, I have no problem with giving you that shot.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it was a huge, I don't know what I was expecting from that. The conversation in general, and I don't know what I was expecting his reaction to be, but I think that's one of the huge turning points of my life where I was thinking people aren't really going to care what I did way back when. Yeah. Is far enough removed that.
Well, and if you're just open and honest with everything, that people will accept you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that has probably been the biggest takeaway, or one of the biggest takeaways from the whole situation, is anytime that I have been honest and upfront, and it doesn't matter, like you said, I speak with and I work with all walks of life, from, healthcare executives to senior partner that are attorneys to people in finance to people that have been in my own situation. Right. And if you're open and honest with them, they really do not care that much.
No. So. And that's just with everything. I feel like there's such a stigma with this, right? With drugs, addiction, that people assume that's a certain type of person. Like if you never would have told, you know what I mean? Like they look like a certain type of person, that they're whatever. Yeah. And so I feel like, I think when you had told me, I don't know, I feel like, I never was like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like you ever put off anything, which again,
that tracks. Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
You've definitely been in prison 10 years.
Like, you know what I mean? Not that, again, it's that stereotype though of people assuming. And so it's just just like I said, carry yourself, and not with even a chip on your shoulder, nothing, and I feel like, I've known from personal experience, you know, with Wes and stuff like that, because he was in prison and I wasn't told till way down the road. Yeah. And so I've seen it on both ends of knowing someone and then being someone telling me kind of up front. Yeah. And it's just I feel like that person that, him telling me that, later on the road, because he was still ashamed, he still saw himself as that person.
Yes.
And with you, it's almost like, again, not to compare very different situations, but but it's one of those where you don't identify as that person. Like, you're not, it made you who you are, yes, but you don't carry it with you in that way.
Not at all. Yeah, it does not. It does not define. Like you said, it has played a huge part of development, the way that I act, my goals in life post release. But it absolutely does not define who I am, and I've never would let that define who I am, and I would never play a victim to a point to where I use that as an excuse to, like we said, not try or fall victim to my addictions again,
right,
or ruin the rest of my life.
So were you, for those listening, were you at this point, you're 21, were you selling just to like everyone? Was it like you were like the main guy on the street? Like, were you addicted? Like, what was the whole?
How do we even get to that point?
Yeah.
So interesting. We got to that point. Weird enough, right? And I will go ahead and put this out there as a disclaimer. I grew up in a fantastic family. I was raised by great parents.
Yeah, where were you born?
So I was born in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
And I was born and raised in a Priest Lake area out by Percy Priest Lake.
Yeah.
Funny enough, at Next Level Fitness, I look out the front window and I was bored right across the street.
At the hospital?
At the hospital, right across the street. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I was born and raised out in Percy Priest Lake.
Okay.
And it's funny. I just surrounded myself with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And you see quotes every day. It's like, oh, you surround yourself with 5 smokers, you'll be the 6th. Oh, you surround yourself with 5 of this, you'll be the 6th,
Right.
And it's very true, because my brother and I were raised exactly the same.
Yeah.
20 months apart, went to the same schools.
Okay.
He was very straight and narrow.
Okay.
Follow all the rules. I was very wild child.
Yeah.
Crazy. And he's been great. He's super successful, graduated high school, college, corporate America since the day he got out of college.
Okay.
Very, very successful. Where me, 15 years old,
Yeah.
my crowd, we started smoking weed. It was at that point that I started to expose myself to addictions at a very young age. And that's kind of what I've been fighting all the way up until me being 42 years old, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved it. Like, I loved getting high.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a thing. So me always having an entrepreneurial spirit there, I guess we'll say.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought, well, why would I want to pay for smoking weed if I know the person that has a decent amount of weed? I can just go get a bigger bag, and then, when my friends want it, I can let them pay me.
Right.
And then, so this was me at 15 and 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? And it just kind of snowballed. Like, it was from there. It was, okay, well, now my friends smoke, but now a bunch of people know I have it.
Yeah.
So I'm selling to, I had a job. I worked at Little Caesars when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
So then I started selling to my friends. Well, I started selling to people that I work with.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, I know Nashville, everyone's imagining Nashville right now and how big it is, but back then, because I was in the borough. So I knew
the borough was far back then.
Yes.
Also, it was like it was way far away.
And it was one of those things where you knew who was the person that sold the weed, or who, there was very specific people. So
Correct.
Was it that everyone knew, but nobody was saying stuff, or you feel like it really was tight knit until it wasn't?
Yeah, it was really tight knit as far as that goes. But then I've also been a very social person. So I just meet people. I've always met people my whole life. Mm-hmm. And then, it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
So, and smoking weed then, unfortunately, was not it wasn't a taboo thing. Half the kids in high school at least did it. So, it just kind of it went from there. So then I started meeting, and I went to McGavick High School. So
fuck, man.
Yeah. So
McGavick, literally, I was going to ask, but I was like, I don't want to stereotype it. But seriously, that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people that don't know McGavick High School, at the time that I went to high school, it was the largest high school in Tennessee. We had over 3,000 students in one high school.
Damn.
Not only that, it wasn't 3,000 students from a neighborhood. It was 3,000 students. We had Antioch, which is where I grew up. We had Donaldson, which is another large neighborhood.
Yeah.
We had Hermitage, which is another large neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then we had the South Nashville, the inner city South Nashville kids also. So it was even a bigger thing for me. It was kind of like the perfect storm, because then I started meeting kids from other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just different friend groups and different circles. So now, everybody just finds out, oh yeah, well,
Nate's that guy.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
so this is where that just it just blew up from there. And before I knew it, yes, it was way out of control.
Okay.
But I wasn't willing to give it up either.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because, I mean, you're working at Little Caesars, making what?
Yeah.
Like how much an
back
hour?
then it was $5.75 an hour or something like that. $7 an hour, whatever it was. It was next to nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, everybody wanted to be my friend, and I had stuff to do all the time and everything like that. So,
were you dating anybody at this time?
I did have a girl. Yes, I had one girlfriend when I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was she into anything as well, or was it just like she?
Yeah, she smoked. Yeah, she smoked also. So,
Okay.
It was pretty hard not to, because I pretty much smoked all day.
So, but your parents, they were pretty straightforward, like not like your brother, or
Very. Yeah.
So you didn't see any of that, like they weren't really drinkers, or they weren't really.
They did. They drank at night. Casually, but nothing like that. It was never anything.
Yeah.
None of that was ever around.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think they probably. I probably smelled so bad all the time. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure
That smell
They
would be
knew.
yeah.
But as long as it wasn't affecting my grades and I wasn't getting in trouble, I think they just kind of. Like, oh, well, it's phase. No, they did not know I was selling at all.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
It wasn't that situation.
So what was the transition, I guess, the age of because we're looking at so you're 15 and then 21, you're locked up.
Yeah.
So when did it get to hardcore drugs? Because I don't consider weed, I don't know. Everybody looks at it different,
but I think that's the opinion of most.
Yeah.
Of most now. Yeah. And even then it was pretty much the same opinion. So when I was almost 18, and at this point, it had become a problem, and I dropped out of high school. Okay. Right after that.
Wait, you dropped out of high school?
I did.
You didn't finish it all?
No, I did not finish it all. I'm a GED. I do have my GED.
Damn. Okay,
yes.
Nate. All right.
I know. Yeah, I think that's probably something a lot of people don't know about me. I think they just assume that.
Yeah.
That I had finished or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just assume that
my
I've never been in
friend
trouble or anything. I've gone to college and all that.
My best friend that was on here, Jordan, I didn't know that either. She didn't tell nobody. She didn't finish. And she was,
I don't think that's something I really share with most people. I think one of my best friends just found out a few weeks ago when I was just kind of bullshitting around with him. And I was like, you're average high school dropout over here, And he was like, what? I was like, oh yeah.
Because it's such a, I don't know. It's like a nostalgic in the movies. Like you think that when people say they're a high school dropout or whatever, you just don't really think that people actually do that. Like they're
yeah.
Yeah. Like how that leads
so it led to, so before it led to hardcore drugs, it had become known by the school police officers that I also sold weed.
Okay.
I never smoked, sold, brought weed on school grounds. I absolutely never would. That was my hardcore.
Yeah.
That was my hardcore line.
We got to
right
meet
there
somewhere
because,
else. Yep.
Yeah, because I knew how much trouble I could get in for that. So it was never anything like that.
We were the same way with drinking. It was the same because people are always trying to drink in the car, whatever. And I was like, nah, we got to go to Sonic.
Yeah,
we got to get down the road.
Yeah, absolutely not on school grounds or anything like that. But it had become known to them junior year, and I'd already started to miss a decent amount of school.
Okay.
Thankfully, I was a fairly intelligent kid, or probably maybe that was kind of worked against me also. I could go to class. I could pass tests, no problem. Mm-hmm. Miss miss classes and everything.
Yeah.
I know it was super frustrating for my teachers. They had expressed that. So anyways, my junior year, I went to go pick up my report card last day of school. Of course, I had smoked on the way to school, so I smelled just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And I was cornered by the police officers, the school police officers, my principal and everything. And they had pretty much told me that if I come back to school for my senior year, that it would be an issue.
Okay.
Like it would have been a real problem for me. I
like,
probably
"Don't come
would have got
back."
my car searched every day. Locker searched. Yeah, they would have made my life a living hell. Kind of a shitty stance for my principal and officers to put me
They weren't
in.
trying to really help. They were just like,
Yeah,
just letting you know.
It felt like, they weren't trying to help the situation.
Right.
I don't think I was beyond help at that point, really.
Got it. Okay.
As a 17-year-old, I knew everything.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
We all did. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much I transferred to the new Antioch High School. I don't think I attended a single day after that.
I see.
So yeah, I just didn't go back for my senior year.
And did your parents know, or were you just like acting like you were?
Yeah, no, they didn't know at first.
Okay.
I would leave in the morning like I was going to school.
Yeah.
This was back before houses had cameras or really alarm systems or anything. So I would just leave until they went to work. My parents were very blue collar. So they were gone to work all day. You know, I mean, they would leave.
Very strict schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, very strict schedule. They wouldn't be home till 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. So, I mean, I could just sit here and act like
you knew.
I'd been at school all day.
Did they have to sign up on your transfer?
Yes, they did in between years.
So they signed off.
It wasn't a big issue because I decided, and at that time, Antioch had just been built. So they had given us the option to, if you live in Priest Lake, Antioch, you can transfer the new Antioch High School, no problem.
So they didn't tell me to.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just kind of, I mean, that's pretty much the way it went. I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm done with McGavick. Yeah. I'd rather just go to school close to home, around neighbors and stuff like that. Whatever. Yeah.
And then you're like, and not showing up.
Yeah.
Not going.
And not showing up. So, but yeah, it was that time, who I thought was a good friend. Yeah, this was my good friend, my business partner in selling.
Yeah.
Our weed man had gotten busted. So we pretty much went out of business. It was, I was just kind of like, okay, maybe I need to get back on the track to get my GED and go to college. I can kind of recover this.
Right.
It was just too hard to find a connection like we had before.
Okay.
So I was trying to give it up. A few months later, he comes back to me. It's like, hey, I met this guy. I was like, yeah.
Shit.
He was like, yeah, man, it's different business,
Same model, but
yeah. He was like, it's coke and it's ecstasy. And he was like, and I was like, it's not the same thing, but it's a lot more money. I've started in it a little bit already myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really have any direction at this point right now.
Right.
So I'm like, let me go back to some of my people and see what they, see if I can
transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way
wow.
it turned into ecstasy, cocaine.
At this point, you're 18?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
18 years old, probably about 19 years old. I think it was a little bit before my 19th birthday.
Did that moment ever come across your head, like in your mind, where you were like, now I could be charged as like an adult if I got caught, versus when we were dealing with like, because you went from like over here to like the big leagues, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I don't know that the thought of me getting charged as an adult went through my head.
Okay.
Me growing up the way that I did and with my family, I'd never known anybody that had gotten in a lot of trouble. I didn't know anybody that had seen it. I didn't know anybody that had prison time. So I didn't know like the real consequences of what I was going to get into.
Had you seen anybody do drugs or anything like that in front of you? Like not weed, but like coke and ecstasy or any of that stuff?
So around 18 years old was probably the first time that I saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when we were growing up, I was so oblivious. Like I had bonfires and all these parties and stuff.
Yeah.
And I literally, we called it like Project X shit because like people were showing up wherever. I just thought like, oh yeah, we're having a great time. Like, cause I was drinking a fifth of Jaeger.
Yeah.
I was drinking, I mean, it was bad. Like I would drink.
That's another level right
12
there.
shots in that bottle. Okay. By myself because I was so pissed off because I'd have these parties, everyone would drink my stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, cause I'd get all the good fruity things and somehow we'd, and whatever, right? I would go back cause I'm like hosting the party and my stuff would be gone.
Yeah.
You best believe when I started drinking Jaeger, I come back to that the beer pong table and it was still right there.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody touching that. So yes, that was my whole deal with Jaeger. I was like, I'm gonna show y'all. And then literally we would finish the night with like a funnel circle of like yellowtail.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would just chug the whole thing. Can you believe that? When I look back at it, I'm like,
You can't have a sip of tequila.
Yeah, right. Now she's over here chugging Yellowtail.
But like literally,
can't take a sip of tequila.
Thank you so much for listening and watching the Love Your Body podcast. If you get a chance to share this with a friend, please do subscribe, follow, all the things. And guys, stay tuned for all the upcoming surprises with Dandy Fitness coming at you for 2024. I'm super excited and can't wait to share.
Thanks for listening to the Love Your Body podcast with Danny D. I'm excited to be the first male guest on the podcast and share my story. Please share with anyone that you know has the same story or think would be inspired by the stories that are on this podcast. When you get a chance, follow me at Nate_Edman, EDMAN_wellness. And if you're looking for online personal training through an app, I do training and online coaching through Trainerize. So look me up, give me a DM, and let's see if we can get you on your health and wellness journey.
Yeah, you're good. No,
Okay.
you're good. It's practice, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Being the host takes practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you jump in, when not, see what questions.
Yeah, it's
Flow, and
Yeah.
It's like a conversation.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a conversation with tequila. I mean, it's like it's fine. Little stuff.
Conversations with tequila always go better.
That's for sure. No, I was gonna say that, over the past like weekend, like when I was talking about like doing stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
I had a moment and I was like, you know what? Let's go do like a little moonshine tasting or like a little like whatever.
Yeah.
So I did that and I had my first little sip and it was the first sip. So truthfully, from like over a year and a half of not drinking.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful moment because we were like in Gatlinburg and it was fun. And it was just a time where I felt like I don't have to go chug a whole bottle. Like we were just talking about with like the Moscato and stuff, like how when I was younger, because like me in a situation, like going to see someone and like with like a man, I always, when I was younger, would drink a lot so that I couldn't like see myself in the mirror or I couldn't see what I look like or self-esteem or whatever. Right. Yeah. And I felt just like absolutely beautiful. And I was like, I don't need to forget this moment. I don't need to you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And so that was a refreshing moment. So it's just like same with this. It's like having those bits and pieces where I've learned that from being young and just kind of going 0 to 100 real quick with stuff and over excess and overindulging for the wrong reasons. Yeah. That was what, I mean, it was killing me. You know what I mean? It was literally like, not just from like being overweight or whatever, but just mentally feeling trapped.
Yeah.
And now I feel such a freeing feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you're in balance.
Yeah.
Better balance.
Right. And finding that balance. And that's so hard to do when you've come from all of these like these notions of like what's good, what's bad. Right.
Yeah.
And like, and what we were talking about, like with like the parties and stuff, I never saw anyone like, I was like, well, I'm not them. Like, I'm not selling drugs. I'm not doing this. Or so like, I'm over here just like getting wasted, drinking. Like it's normal because it's accepted. Right? It was accepted because everyone was doing it because they were insecure and they just wanted to feel good and whatever. Mm-hmm. So I never once saw drugs, nothing like that. Yeah. Fast forward to I was 17 and I was going to Panama City with friends and we all meet up at the McDonald's or whatever. And they had this guy and I knew he like did drugs or whatever, but like I didn't like know him. And he gets in the backseat of my car and I'm like, you know what? It's fine, whatever. And we're driving and we're in Alabama. And if you know that road to PCV, I saw, and I'm a horrible driver, still am. I almost get pulled over because I see a cop and he comes and his lights are on. Well, he passes me, thank God, and gets the car that was in front of me. Yeah. And literally the guy in the back is holding his teddy bear like this. And I'm like, what the because I was like, oh, that's so weird. He's got like a stuffed animal, like you
Yeah.
know. And I was like, but people travel differently and whatever. Like I don't know.
Yeah, sleeping away from home. I need my teddy bear.
People travel. You're right.
This motherfucker had a bear full of drugs, okay? And literally so I finally pick up on it.
Yeah.
That, because, and again, and that's how the parties were too. Like, I never realized until like I walked past and smelled just weed, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was so naive to it, but it was such a taboo thing that it really was like, if you didn't see it, like it did not happen.
Yeah.
It
was very behind closed doors.
Yeah, and even that whole trip, I did not see drugs. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And so because he like did what he did, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was so wild, and so that was like my first kind of like introduction, kind of.
Yeah.
But then everyone that I was around always just smoked weed, like through college and whatever.
Yeah.
So really, I did not have an experience with drugs until Wes, and until I saw him on the ground.
Yeah.
And
you were
found.
well into your 20s.
Oh yeah, I was 26.
Yeah.
No, 27 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you believe that? Like you want to talk about like culture shock this
Yeah.
whole time. I was around it. I was immersed in it, whatever, stuff like that, but didn't
But it
really
was
even.
never in your face.
It was never in my face.
Yeah.
And then also to the point where I'm like, what is this? Like, I can't even understand.
Yeah.
And then to finally be like, oh, this makes sense, and put it all together.
Yeah.
And just crazy. So it's just like, anyway, all that to say.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
real quick question. And
Yeah.
You can jump back in with this if you'd like. But,
Yeah.
You've asked before about being exposed.
Yeah.
Right? You're saying that not really. And you're saying like not really, right? So
Right.
You weren't, and so you never really got into it.
Yeah.
You weren't, and you did get into it. But some people, they say it's because they were exposed to it.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the case for you. So,
Yeah, neither one of us were.
Yeah, no, I never really, I may have seen one or two people use before I actually hopped into selling cocaine. Don't know that I ever really saw anybody use ecstasy that much before I hopped into that. We experimented. I was one of those kids, like we experimented with LSD, acid, and mushrooms. We did some of that stuff. So I saw all kinds of stuff, but it wasn't ever really, the cocaine really wasn't in my face to that point before I really kind of got into it. So yeah, it was different. I don't know what I was, I say this about a lot of things. I don't know what I was thinking looking back on it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
was that ignorance of not being around it? You didn't realize-
yeah, I think that's probably, if I would have seen the bad side of it, I don't think I would have gotten into it the way that I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I did see on that note, on a similar thing, I did see the bad side of prescription pill use. I had gone to, I'd seen a friend who dealt pills, and I had gone with him somewhere, and I had gone to a couple of drop-offs with him, and I'd gone into people's houses, and they literally had like milk crates with lamps sitting on them. They had sold everything in their house to get prescription pills. And that was one of
Oh
those
my
things. It was like
gosh.
that was a hard line for me. I was like, oh, well, me being ignorant at that age, I'm like, oh, well, this is a hard line that I'm not going to cross. Like, I'm not going to get hooked on pills. So
Yeah.
I could make this, I could get in my mind, like, yes, I'm never going to take pills, or I'm not going to, if I took one here or there, that's fine, but I would never do them.
Yeah.
Because I saw that,
Yeah.
right? I never saw the hard line of what cocaine did to people or anything like that. So I think that probably, that was me justifying it to myself, whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, like, I guess for me and my family, like, we don't really have, my dad saw how people were out, like alcoholics, like that he grew up with, whatever,
Yes.
like functioning alcoholics.
Yeah.
So he didn't drink really. I never saw my
Okay.
dad drink growing
Yeah.
up. So I didn't experience that. And even to now, I mean, he maybe has a beer or like, he tried to get this like hardcore, it was a commercial and I can't think of it right now, but like it's like a blue box, but it's like the guy that's like, oh, what is it? Is it whiskey? Is it, this is going to bother me
I hope
so
nobody's drinking boxed
bad.
whiskey for
no,
that matter.
No. It like came this like, it was this expensive thing, but it was like a blue box that mom got him. Like they opened it up into this nice bottle. And what is it? No, not Grey Goose. Ugh, no, it was like it's whiskey. I chugged Grey Goose one time, fell off a bus. Anyway, so yeah.
Might be Johnny Walker Blue or something like that.
Yes, that's what it is. Okay, so
Scotch.
Scott.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so but
Very
Dad
similar.
tried.
Somewhat similar.
But Dad
Yeah.
was sitting there trying to drink it, but but it was the allure of it, right? And so he like saw the commercials, he saw the things or whatever, and then he like actually had some, and he's like, "Oh, I don't actually want this."
Yeah, I'm good.
Because it's that hype up of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so like for me, it was like I really did just drink a lot because it was to escape my own insecurities and my own stuff and for people to like me. And like, that was like what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we were so like on a schedule. Like, I mean, I was dancing this, that, but we had a bye weekend where we weren't competitively dancing.
Yeah.
Let's all turn up.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it was just like that whole like go hard, no one knows what's going on. And then let's do that.
Yeah.
But when it came to like, drugs, I never saw anything laying around the house, like, no pills or no whatever. But, I know that for me, like with knowing my mom's side of the family, that it really drinking was like the issue, I guess. And then then it was more of like, there was no addictive qualities, like addictive things that we'd seen. Like no one was addicts,
Yes.
but they did like overindulge in things and, smoke weed or do whatever and do pills, stuff like that. So I've always had in the back of my mind of like, I have to find that balance of stuff because I know that I could just easily take up this because I can give my all to everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. So it just, yeah.
So when did you start using it?
Yeah.
I started smoking weed immediately, as I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I started using. I was doing the cocaine, and like I said, I had seen it a couple times in my face. I took part also, so that was probably 18 years old. And then when I started selling, I started using also. I was the type that, even through all of that, I still held a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, I could do, a weekend, a full weekend of it, or a long weekend. And I was traveling a lot. I was back and forth to Florida a lot. So I would do it at parties, and a lot of it was being sold in nightclubs. So I would do it there for the parties, but then I could turn it off. Like I didn't need it through the week. I didn't need it to wake up. I didn't need it to do any of that stuff. I did it for fun, for influence, for girls, everything like that. So I didn't ever let it get a hold of me as far as the addict standpoint.
Okay.
Which, looking back and knowing my personality, is very shocking.
Yeah.
I think the lifestyle was more the addiction for me,
Right.
than the actual drugs were.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it turned in after I started selling a little bit. I knew one of my good friends, he had moved down to, like I said, he had moved down to Florida,
Yeah.
To the Destin area at the time. So, and he had sold with me before also.
Okay.
So of course I hit him up, and was like, hey, market for it down here. This is what I'm into. Yeah, sure. Knew some other people that lived out of town also. So it just kind of cranked right back up.
Yeah.
And the cocaine and ecstasy is what took place of the weed. So, and for me, it was probably easier. The transportation of it was easier. It was smaller.
Yeah.
The money was greater, everything like that.
All I'm envisioning is Pablo Escobar right now.
I was not that.
When I get my fight orders, I'm like, hey, I feel the same way. I get that rush. I kind of know what you're talking about.
But yes, it's something like that. I mean, and there was the fight in me constantly, right?
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Right.
I knew what I was doing was going to end badly.
Yeah.
And I was still not strong enough to pull myself out of the life that I had gotten myself into.
Yeah.
So this was the everyday struggle. So I was miserable on one end, right? I was in the middle of my addiction.
Right.
I knew it was just going to absolutely destroy my life.
Yeah.
And just keep on going.
Yeah.
Without change.
And you didn't have any kids, right? You don't have any kids?
No, I do not have any kids.
Okay.
Still at 42, I do not have any kids.
Okay. All right. We're going to knock on wood. We good? Are we just saying.
Well, I have been I have been fixed personally, so that's
Okay.
not going to be a path in my life.
There we go. All right. But so basically to say that, I'm just saying that like you didn't have, it's not like you had to come home to like a wife and kids to
No.
like provide,
I did
right?
not.
At that time. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it really was on you.
Yes.
Like, I mean, at this time, were you close with your parents still? Were you?
I was. Obviously, I tried to pull away from. I was very close to my parents. I was very close to my aunt and uncle that have lived in the Nashville, Franklin area for a long time.
Yeah.
My brother and I were very close, but he had moved away to college. He was kind of my, for better or for worse, he was kind of my chaperone.
Yeah. Is he older or were you older?
He's 20 months older.
20 months
So
older. Yeah, okay.
when he moved away
So
to go to college,
Yeah.
I was just kind of like wide open.
Yeah.
After that, because there was nobody to
answer to, nobody to.
Yeah.
either.
He was kind of like my parent that was out hanging out with me half the time.
Yeah.
Right. So, when I didn't have that, it was just kind of
Yeah.
wheels off. Like, phew.
So around this time, so you're in this circuit, I mean, so about 3 years, like 18 to 21?
Yeah. A good
Okay.
2+. Yeah.
Okay. And you're still in the Nashville area or you were in Florida?
Yes. I was in the
Okay.
Nashville area.
Okay.
I went down to Florida often.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I've been drinking a little bit. So, trying to keep it. I gotta keep it straight. Gotta keep it straight.
By a little bit, we mean a little bit.
We need a little bit. No, anyway. So then, you know, I mean, like, you never thought you would get caught? Like, or did it at any point as you were getting a little older, are you like, maybe? Or were you like, nah? Like,
Yeah, I think there was probably 2 instances, right? I was doing a deal and the person I was doing a deal with pulled a gun on me. And at this point, I don't know if there was something, I don't know what was going through my head, if there was anything going through my head.
right.
We were out in the Cool Springs area and this kid was a Cool Springs kid. So I was like, he's not going to shoot me in the face at a BP, like right there on
Right.
Mallory Lane or anything.
Oh my gosh.
I pretty much just told him to shoot me if he wants it. And, then I just got out of his car and told him never contact me again.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was kind of an eye-opening. It should have been an eye-opening experience. Yeah. I also had an incident with a vice cop, a Metro vice cop.
Okay.
And I did not know him. He was connected with me through a guy that I knew. So I don't know if this was intentional. He tried to buy ecstasy from me. I got his money before I handed him drugs.
Yeah.
And it was all very crisp, very consecutive bills. And
So I feel like you're being set up.
yeah, so I handed him his money back.
Yeah.
More like threw his money back at him and told him never to buy drugs from anyone that he doesn't know. And I just walked off. So
Okay.
there was definitely a controlled buy situation there. And later on, when I got arrested, I figured out it was definitely a controlled buy.
Wow.
Like
So they knew who you were. They knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, Metro Vice did know who they had been told about me at some point in time.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, between those 2 situations, you would think that would be enough to
Yeah.
make me wake up.
Yeah. There was never an instance where anybody like died or anything that you knew of.
Not that I knew of.
Okay.
For the most part, I sold to dealers, so I wouldn't know.
Okay, yeah. So your hands you were like the above. You were like, yeah, dealers
bit.
get it out. Like you're not. Yeah.
Yeah. For the most
Okay.
part, I sold to guys that sold. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So, no, there was never any OD situations or I had never seen
Yeah.
anything like that. It was always 2 steps removed from me. So it was
Right.
like, it didn't really affect me like that.
So tell us, I mean, everybody listening's going to want to know, what was the night like or the day like when it happened?
The day was like, or the evening was like, one of our middleman, our guy that was the introduction to the people that were given to us. He owned a nightclub in Nashville at the time. He had gotten in trouble. So he decided to work I was arrested by the FBI. So he was arrested by the FBI and he decided to work for the FBI.
Of course.
Setting other people up.
Okay.
So I went to the club, got a call, went to the club. There was an issue about, before sending money off, can you get rid of a kilo of cocaine? Something like that.
Okay.
went and picked it up, saw that I was being followed out of the nightclub. These cars were like Grand Prix, Camry, Navigator, nothing marked or anything like that.
Okay.
So I didn't see multiple cars following me. I knew one car was following me.
Yeah.
I'm an aggressive enough driver that like,
Yeah.
I knew what was going on. Like
Okay.
it was very obvious somebody was following me. I thought I was getting robbed
Oh, okay.
personally. So I tried to get away from them.
Yeah.
They eventually flashed their blue lights. So
Did you know that other guy got in trouble?
the guy that I had been a partner with for a long time was with me also that night. So and then it was his whole situation going on, and we were just together.
Okay.
But no, I did not know he had gotten in trouble that night. And then the guy that I was with got in trouble that night, and somehow I was the only one that ended up doing prison time.
Are you serious?
So out of the three of us, yes. So
Because there was no one to like rat out, or there was nobody to like there's nobody
because
to make
I
a deal?
chose not to, and they chose another decision.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously.
So do you ever like fast forward real quick, like
Yeah.
to now being 42? Do
Yeah.
you ever like, are you ever worried about them ever like contacting you again? Was there any point where they tried to, or was there any time where they try to reel you back? Like,
Funny enough, right? The guy that I was friends with,
yeah.
I was coaching my niece's softball team.
Okay.
And we were playing another team, and we traveled a little bit, and lo and behold, I look over at the other dugout, and the coach of the other softball team
No way.
is him. Yes.
What did you do?
I had to step away for a minute because
Yeah.
that was the first time that I had seen him that was probably 5 years after my release.
Okay.
So that was the first time I had seen him in 15 years.
Wow. While you were in prison, did you have time, like in that stretch of time,
Yes.
to forgive? Or were you just like, what was that like?
So, yes, they gave me enough time that I did have time to forgive.
Okay.
The first few years I was consumed with, they told on me.
Oh, yeah.
I've got all this prison time because of them.
It's their fault.
It's their fault. Like zero owning my own shit.
Yeah.
Here, I was still drinking. I was still getting high. I was still fighting. So I was definitely just consumed by it. With my anger and my hate.
Yeah.
And it was my dad who told me, he was like, you can continue to get in trouble and you can continue to throw your life away. But he was like, you can be mad at them all you want to, but if you weren't doing what you were doing, you wouldn't have been in a position to be told on. So
For sure.
like, you can be mad all you want to. And like, this can ruin the rest of your life. It can, it can put a damper on 10 years or it can ruin the rest of your life depending on how you react to the situation. Which is a big thing with us now. It's like, yes, life comes at you in all kinds of ways. How do you react to it? Are you going to let circumstances that are beyond your control ruin your life? Or are you going to control yourself in a way that you make yourself a better person, or you control where your life goes after this event?
I love that. So I don't even know, like, the federal prison, like where was that located at? Like where is that at? Because like, were your parents visiting you? Like, could they come see you? Like,
they could.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in Ashland, Kentucky for about 8 years, which is right on the Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky border. It was about 6-7 hours away from here.
Okay.
It was very hard on me, right?
Yeah.
So yes, they came to visit me. I tried to make sure that they didn't come to visit me every more than like 3 months at a time, because it was just difficult.
Yeah.
Like, it was very difficult. So yeah, they'd come see me 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
Well, you said you were consumed with it for a few years. Are you talking about after you got out?
No, after I was incarcerated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're about like late 20s, you'd say, or mid 20s when you started kind of like turning your mindset about that?
Yeah, I would say probably 26, 27. It was probably about 4 or 5 years, almost halfway into my prison sentence before I like finally got myself together. And it was one time, so my dad had that conversation with me.
Yeah.
There was one time when I was in solitary confinement and I got a phone call. You get a phone call every 30 days because I was in trouble for, I can't remember, it was fighting or drinking at that time.
Right.
And I was speaking to my mother, and she was just like, you know, like, we're going to hang in there with you for the rest of this time.
Yeah.
But if you come home and get in trouble again, we're done.
Right.
Like, I can't, for them, it was, and I saw it on my sentencing date when I was in court, it was as hard or harder for them than it was for me.
Yeah.
To see their son go through this.
Right.
Right. So fast forward to that conversation, she was just like, you know, I'm going to hang in there.
Yeah.
Like, I love you unconditionally, regardless. But like, if you come home and you go back in,
Yeah.
like, I can't. Like,
Right.
because you're breaking my heart. I was
sure.
like, so then me being in solitary confinement and I didn't have any contact with anyone for another 30 days, I've really got,
Right.
I really got something to think about there. Well, I'm staring at a ceiling with only like religious material to read and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
yeah. And 45 minutes out in a caged yard today. So,
This may be a dumb question, but like you mentioned the drinking a couple times. That's what I was asking.
yeah.
So like how, again, maybe a stupid question, but you mentioned like smoking and drinking.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
In prison?
Oh, that's always the question. Yes.
Yeah.
When you have 1,200 criminals
Yeah.
confined within this space.
They gonna figure it out.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's some very intelligent people in there. Very intelligent people. Put their minds to the right thing. They would have been very successful and could have done anything that they wanted to in life.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of misguided. And I'm sure some of them got out and did great things afterwards. But yeah, you get that many creative criminal minds in one area.
Yeah.
You're going to find a way to, especially if there's money to be made off of it, which is what 98% of us were in there for. We're going to find a way to get anything in there. The alcohol we made. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, I mean, we just did it in trash bags, mop buckets, whatever. Some of it was wine, some of it was liquor.
Oh my
I mean, it was crazy. Like, I mean, they would make wine. They would even cook it off and make like Everclear, pure grain alcohol, like straight
yeah.
liquor. I
Yeah.
mean, it's wild. But
Oh my gosh.
so yeah, you can get into anything in there that you possibly want to get into. Honestly.
So let's, because I do want to touch on this, because we
Yes.
both have this, you know, in terms of like grief.
Yes.
So you've talked about how your parents were that support for you, that helped turned around everything.
Yeah.
And you're 31 when you got out?
I was. yeah.
Okay. And what age were you when they passed? Or
So actually this week is coming up on the fifth anniversary of my mom passing.
okay.
So I'm so bad with years also. 37 when my mom passed.
Gotcha.
She passed about 20 months after my dad did.
Okay.
So he was January of 2017, like
Okay.
right around my birthday.
Okay. So was
Yeah.
it just health or what happened there?
Yeah. So dad had a long bout with Parkinson's.
Okay.
So he was consistent downhill slide.
Okay. But this started after you got out, or this was before?
The start of it was before I got home.
Okay.
So I got to see him on some good times, but yeah, he definitely wasn't
Yeah.
the strong, independent individual that
Before prison
I grew
that
up
you
with.
knew. Yeah.
Yes. That was difficult. There was as much guilt surrounding that that I probably missed the best years of my dad's life.
Yeah.
Me being an asshole for about 5 years and then me being in prison for another 10.
Yeah.
So me missing, his healthy years. Yeah, there was definitely some guilt surrounding that. But at least I got to say goodbye to him. Like it was almost
Yeah.
in the last year, he was wheelchair bound. And my mom cared for him 24 hours a day. So it was almost like a grieving process while he was alive.
Yes.
So that was much easier to deal with than 20 months later. My brother and I go away on a weekend trip to go see my uncle in Ohio, and I come home and I can't get in touch with my mom, and we text it every day. Turns out she had suffered a massive aneurysm.
Oh my gosh.
And had just pretty much not died instantly, but she was, it was pretty much done. And so it would have been just like a heart attack and never recovering. Like she never regained consciousness.
And she, like, health-wise, like nothing?
She was healthy. She used to work out with me in Next Level Fitness once a week. She was probably healthier than she had been the majority of her life.
So, we both dealt with grief, and in that, I understand when you say about your dad,
Yes.
about how that you almost mourned while he was alive, right? Like, and you said that some people can think that's morbid or whatever, but it was a sad thing to watch for me because I knew what was going to happen. Like, and you can say that's, you can say scientific based because Parkinson's and whatever. Mine was very intuitive with God. I knew this is the path that was going to happen.
Yeah.
This internal clock, right? So, I've listened to others who have told me that their losses have been very abrupt and how they've dealt with the sadness of that, and they can't get through it. They don't know how to get through it.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like you still carry that weight around? Do you feel like it was better to kind of watch your dad go through that? Like, where are you kind of at with that?
So with my dad, yes, I feel very at peace with his passing. I was able to say goodbye. I was able to, kind of talk to him about, my behavior as a kid, and what I went through with going through prison and how he carried this huge burden on him. He felt like a failure as a father on some level. Yeah. So I was able to reconcile that with him.
I love that.
So yeah, I'm much more at peace with that. It was with my mother and I don't know, God, I don't know if I'm over it yet.
Yeah.
Even 5 years later, I think I still carry it around with me. It's this thing like, I don't know. I just wish I could talk to her sometimes, or, something like that. But yeah, it's the losing her abruptly that I was never able to say goodbye.
Yeah.
That it's just tough to deal with. It's two very, very different states of grief that you deal with. And not to say that either one of them is easy.
Right.
I think one of them just takes less time to be at peace with. We'll say that. Right. I think that's a little bit better description.
And I think as humans, we need that closure. We want that closure. We want, and when we don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's
that's
unbearable.
That's with all things. Like you want closure on death. You want closure on if you were fired from a job. You want closure on the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
You want closure on, how friendships went bad. Like you said it right. Like we want closure on any level with pretty much anything we do as humans. I think you're right about that. So.
And I've watched that like eat away at people. And so, that's why, you always, like I said, like it's just been so incredible to watch because again, like you continue to keep fighting. And, I've seen people who you can say, oh, well, they're fighting too, but it's they've let it consume them so much. And again, grief is different when it's a parent. It's different when it's a partner. It's different when whatever. But like, again, it's still grief. And I've even been having it's like even to this day, every Tuesday is just so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I try not to hold weight to that day.
Yeah.
But damn, you know what I mean? And those pivotal things that just kind of like sits with you a little bit.
It does.
But if I wouldn't have had that closure that I had that day, I feel like I would have been kind of right there with them, all the other people I'm referring to, in that of like, oh, I could have done something different. I could have whatever. It's like, I knew that I could have done everything I could have.
Yeah.
And said everything that I wanted to say.
Yeah. But it takes you a while to get to that point, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
To realize that like there's nothing more that you could have done.
Yeah. And I think about that every day with like my dad being sick.
Yes.
And stuff. And so I try to just be like, end every day with being like good. And I do that with my own health too, though. Like I try to look at every day to say, okay, like would I have, if this was my last day, would it have been like, when I look back at it and be like, yeah, I spent it helping people, doing something that I love, working out, like, and I try to do that kind of checklist at night and be like, but not to be OCD about it or whatever, because every day's different, but be like, no, like, did I thoroughly enjoy it or make an impact? And if I did, then I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I didn't, or I feel unsettled with something, I don't like to leave that open.
Right.
To that.
And you're very similar to me.
Yeah.
You like to know that you made an effort. I'm never going to feel good about not trying my hardest.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, and I think that, and I want to transition here into this because I think that we both also know that we can go kind of to the edge though with that. So let's talk about that, Nate. Let's talk about this. Like, how do we, because I say this all the time, find balance, whatever. But when you do look at yourself as like an exceptional person or that you are different or whatever, then your balance is not what the traditional balance looks like. And when you deal with addictive behaviors and things, you have to have some sort of release. And if you don't, you run yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
Even if it's all the great things, all the right things. I really prided myself, and I talked about that even on here of like, I'm doing every workout. I'm getting the sleep. I'm getting the vitamins. I'm doing everything to the T, like perfect. But yeah, not sleeping around, not doing these things, not being off my path, whatever. But yet it was like almost kind of killing me too. And shutting me down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Because you were extreme on the other end.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a healthier end.
Yep.
Like you're not self-destructive in a way that is going to possibly kill you or hurt you.
Right.
But it is going to exhaust you.
Yes.
And the bad thing about things like that for people like us is that sometimes when we break.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a bad situation.
Literally, like, I mean, I felt like that was my breaking point.
Yeah.
Like I remember being on the Stairmaster and being like, wow, like I am done. Like I can't come back from this. Like I'm permanently like changed, if that makes sense, or like this is within me. And so it's one of those things where like I was like, this has to be revised. This has to be this revision. And that's why like now it's like, it really is just that simple step of being like, instead of being like, okay, it has to be like this and whatever, being like, okay, no, just breathe. Like take a second and let's like find a way to enjoy it and be mindful. Like I went into a candy store in Gatlinburg or whatever. Yeah. And you would have thought, I mean, I was getting candy store, right? But I'm like, oh my God, there's like all this candy, whatever. I'm like, oh my God, this would be crazy. And then I was like, wait, like you have all the time you need. There's no one pressuring you. There's no one rushing you. There's it doesn't matter. Like you're okay. And then literally I was like, and then I asked the lady, she's like, well, what do you want? And instead of being like, oh, I want everything. I was like, no, like, let me go around. And I picked out. And I was like, I haven't had coconut in forever. And I was like, man, some dark chocolate coconut? Like, that sounds awesome, right?
It does sound awesome.
And I was like, let's do that. And then, like, and then Chris was with me, and he was like, do you want, this or that, whatever. I was like, nah, that doesn't sound appealing to me, or appealing to me, whatever. And I just had like 2 pieces, and it was just like beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, like, that was so nice.
Yeah.
But like, I had to go through so much to get to that point.
A lot of self-talk, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where when, you and me talked, a couple weekends back or whatever about, stuff that you still go through.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that? Or give an example?
Yeah, it's so for me, and it's, like I said, I introduced addictive behavior into my life at such a young age.
Yeah.
I don't know there's ever anything that I'll get away from. It's always going to be a situation where I have to self-reflect.
Well, do you feel like because you pivoted and now your addictive behavior is into other things that you really didn't get over it? Or do you feel like, no, you got through it and now it's just a totally different situation?
I think I got through it and it's a totally different situation.
Okay.
So like my addictive behavior now it's a physical addictive behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had times in my past before where I haven't been in that many relationships in my life, right?
Okay.
But I have had times in my past before where when I got out of my relationship, yes, my addictive behavior was women.
Yeah. We're the worst. The best, but
I kind of have
or the worst.
a little bit of the other side.
Whatever. Don't do that.
We're on a team here, Logan. So yeah, and that's like, I reasoned with myself then that, okay, I was very upfront with the women that I was sleeping with. Right. So this isn't damaging in any kind of way.
Yeah.
And that's just as an addict, that's just reasoning.
Right.
Right. Whether it's your addiction to food, whether it's to drugs or alcohol or whatever, there's always going to be a reasoning there.
Right.
Right. So I was like, okay, well, as long as I'm upfront and I tell these girls like, oh, I don't want a relationship.
Yeah. Makes it okay. Yeah.
But if you're going to get in bed with me anyways, then that's on you.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just turning the addictive behavior on them, which is a classic situation right there.
Right.
So yeah, this time it's different in a way that I'm going to be save my.
What? Tell us what you're thinking.
And this is me self-talking also, right?
I like
Self-talking through this whole thing. It's like, yes, I am going to go out and have fun, and I am going to date, and I am going to see other women and whatever, because I'm not ready to be committed to anyone again anytime soon. I don't think. There's still a lot of stuff that I have to process in my head, but it's going to be in a way that I'm not going to fall to my addiction again. Like, I'm not going to pull the trigger and go that full and just try to reason with myself and be like, okay, well, can I control my mind? Right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I'm going to be perfect.
No,
I already know that. I already know that.
And I think even having a game plan or having kind of a structure of how you want to view the next season, the next chapter is great. Yeah. You know, because even if you do quote unquote fail or don't do it the way you wanted to, it doesn't, you're still just going to learn from that. Yeah. And, and I feel like that with my new season of stuff that like I may, fall short or this or that or whatever, but like it's how I view it.
Much better than fail, by the way. Fall short is much better than fail, because it's not really a fail.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and it's, I don't know. It feels freeing, like to look at it that way. Yeah. And I just feel like, because I don't want to call like what our hyper personality is, but like, because what, do you know what Enneagram you are?
I'm a 3.
Okay. What does that mean? Is that
I'm very, almost OCD. Like I'm very organized, very like pretty much task oriented, stuff like that. Like I have to have stuff to accomplish. I'm very neat.
Yeah. Is it called the Achiever, or what is that one?
Yes, I believe that is true.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe that's right.
Okay. Yeah. And so, and I'm not 8 or whatever. So it's like that whole mindset. I feel like they align a lot. But I feel like as I've gotten older, it becomes like this whole, like the whole task and stuff or whatever. I literally have to actively not make like tasks and just kind of be like, it's okay to like look at things and not, and like going there this weekend or whatever. I was able to just be like, you plan it.
Yeah. Which was a huge issue for you, wasn't it?
Dude, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna show up. I've been up since 3:30 that morning. I trained all my clients. I got everything ready for the month. I was like, I'll see you guys when I get back. Yeah. And I got there, and it was just, it was perfect. Yeah. Like, but he planned it though. But again, he's like me and like you, and how very like kind of oriented, very scheduled, whatever.
But that's very difficult for you as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur and business owner. Yeah. It's very difficult to do that, right? Because we've had to plan in order to be successful at what we do.
For sure.
And even more so in our profession, we have to plan for, not only do we have to plan for our own business, our business is planning for other people. So you're planning for 20 plus people plus yourself. Oh yeah. So it is very difficult to release that whole thing and let somebody plan for you.
Oh, for sure.
Even though in your mind you're like, oh, it would be so fantastic if somebody would just do this for me. Yeah. It is still very hard to let that go.
And when I genuinely say this was the first time ever that anyone's ever done that for me, it was truly the first time ever.
That's fantastic.
but I almost like passed out.
Good for
you
him.
know what I mean? Like, like
Good for him, by the way.
if anything, it was truly a beautiful, like still to this day, I tell people about the date that I went on when I was 15 years old, because it was the only date I'd ever gone on that someone actually listened to the words coming out of my mouth and planned and got reservations at a pasta dinner. And like, cause I loved that, this place that opened up in Murfreesboro. And then there was like a scary movie and bought all the stuff for me and opened my door. Like that right there. Right.
Yeah.
From 15 years old to now 30. So 15 years of trash dates. So don't tell me, these people are like out of relationships, whatever, like trash dates, bad sexual encounters, all these different things like that I went through.
Yeah.
And again, and it's so crazy because it's like a lot of people now are like, oh, well, you deserve this, you deserve this, you deserve all these things. I don't know about you. I don't really like that. Like I'm like, I just think I don't.
By the way, I went on a date the other night and I opened all her doors for her.
Yep. There you go.
She was impressed. I was like, y'all are setting a really low bar out here nowadays.
And that's why I say too, though, that even like, it wasn't that this was like, oh, wow, like, oh, this is like magic and like crazy, whatever. But it was just like, it was a lot because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the first time. And it was such a beautiful moment because it just really showed that someone just cared.
Yeah.
Like this is what just like caring.
Like attentive.
Yeah. And like you listen, like I said one time that I liked red carnations because I just kind of started liking red carnations. Yeah. But I've always loved red roses. Uh-huh. And then like they were on my doorstep.
Yeah.
One time. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is so
you're
beautiful.
saying there are people out there that aren't so self-centered they can actually hear what the other person says?
News alert. Fuck. Like, I don't know. I mean, there are people, but all that to say, I know people get so frustrated with the dating world, all this stuff, whatever. And I'm not saying, this is it or the whatever, any of that stuff. I'm just saying that that there are people that genuinely do care. It just, it takes you having to release some of that too, though.
Ah, yes.
Right?
Maybe,
is this like y'all been telling me?
Maybe,
was this like you've been telling me all these
maybe
years?
you have to attract it with your mindset. Who knows?
So on that note, well, I mean, moving forward. Oh yeah.
So the addictive personality is kind of what you guys are talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, the addiction.
So where do you think that comes from?
Um.
You plug anything into it, you can get addicted to it. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if that is, and I have read psychology books ad nauseum for the most part, just because it's great to try to figure out how the human mind works. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if it was because at 15 years old, my mind was so moldable, and not formed. Did I introduce that into my mind? Because I didn't see it from my parents. I don't see it in my brother, I don't think. So is it genetic? No, I don't necessarily think it's genetic. Can alcoholism be genetic? Yes, they say. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. No, the addictive behavior, I don't see it in anybody that I'm around. Neither of my two brothers. Actually, I have a half brother as well. And yeah, I didn't see it in either of my parents. So, it might have been an introduction thing because I was so young, and that's the way that I molded my own mind.
Maybe some of those people did some of the same things you did. Maybe it would have triggered something.
Possibly, yeah. And I learned that my parents were both quite wild at some time. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have gotten those stories from them. It might have set me on a different path. Mm. That's just questioning, hindsight. Yeah.
Exposure versus keeping it away.
Yeah, I would. There are.
Exposure can be tough too.
Yes. No.
Right.
So I think there's a fine line there, right? If you're raising kids or you're talking to somebody else, yeah, I think there's a fine line. Like kids probably don't need to know all the details, but they need to know
some things.
Right. Like knowing the consequences of your actions would be a very good thing. Okay, you can continue down this path.
Yeah.
But if you do, this is what is very likely going to happen to you, right?
Well, my dad, for example, he said to me, it's clear as day one time. He literally said, because my mom used to travel a lot. He's like, look, he's like, I don't care what you do. He was like, if you want to stay out till midnight, like nothing good ever happens at past midnight. But if you want to stay out till midnight.
Smart man.
But he was like,
Very
if you
smart
want to
man.
stay out till midnight, that's fine. But just don't call me to come get you.
Yeah.
Whether that's prison, whether that's with your friend's house, whatever, or you in a tough situation.
Yeah.
Like, I will leave you there.
Yeah.
And so that scared me
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than my mom constantly had me, where are you at? What are you doing? Who are you with? Whatever. Because that actually made me,
Pushes you away.
pushed me.
Yeah.
And I think that's just human nature. And I think even if it would have been reversed, if my dad would have done it, I think the same thing. Well, it's not just my mom or my dad. It's
Yeah.
like if either one would have done it.
Yeah.
Because literally it made me one of those things. But with my dad, I was more responsible in that sense where I was like, yeah, you're right. And so anytime there's a party or anything, I saw something kind of a sketch or whatever, I was out.
Yeah.
I was out.
Yeah.
But the other times it was like,
Dad ain't coming to get me from jail, so I'm gone.
But also, I just don't, and this is me my whole life, I don't like to be felt like I'm doing something wrong. And I know no one likes that, but like, it really affects me
Yeah.
when people, like, no, it literally is like this whole, like, I hate that, where it feels like when I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'll tell you this again. So I had went after the show for Chattanooga. I went to meet up with Chris,
Yeah.
and we literally sat and just talked, hand on the Bible. Not even, because I didn't want to first kiss. Like, after you have a show, like, you just don't feel, you feel kind of gross. So I'm not gonna lie, like,
You
you
just
know,
want a hamburger and some fries.
Well, I ate
and
all the
donuts
food.
and
I ate all the
everything
food, but
else.
I honestly was like, I'm trying not to throw up. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
gotta sense the stomach. So anyway, but we just talking to know each other. Well, my mom was like, oh, like the person like you like went out to like be with that night or whatever. I was like, okay. But that's the thing is I don't like to be made to feel like I did something wrong when I
Right.
didn't do anything.
Like, ma'am, I'm an adult.
Exactly. But do you see what I mean though? Like, so it's the same thing with like with the alcohol or whatever. Like I've had people be like, oh, have you drank yet?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I feel like being watched.
yes. And I hate feeling like I can't, because that makes me feel like I'm back in high school and
Yeah.
I can't breathe, because every time I would in high school, I walked around like I was a robot essentially. Because like, does my hair look good in every angle? Do you see what I see in the mirror?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
And I don't think anybody likes to be controlled either. Really.
right. But I feel like people are mindless to it. And they just are controlled by
Yes.
a lot of things.
Very unaware, or
and
choose to be unaware.
They
Yeah.
choose to be unaware. That naiveness,
Yeah.
right? And until you've gone through something like, I feel like trauma or a lot of verbal abuse or body or whatever it might be in your journey, that it just changes you to where you are very hyper aware.
Well, until you've worked through your trauma, let's put it that
Yes.
way. Not
Yes.
just lived through it. Until
Right.
you've worked through it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. So Nate,
Yes. Oh God.
as
The
we're
look I just
drinking
got.
our tequila,
The la-
so
the look I just got.
like okay, let's think about this. So.
Yeah.
All right, now you've gotten through, you know, I mean, there's so much that you've lived, you know, from prison to addiction to now dealing with, you know, the physical addiction stuff
Yeah.
to you're not in a relationship. And you just bought a condo. Yes.
I did. Yes.
Okay.
It'll be my second home.
Okay. Are you
Yep.
so excited?
I am very excited.
Okay.
Yes.
When do you move into that there?
So hopefully November of next year. So it'll be about another 12 months before it's finished. So I get to see the whole project
I love it.
done from beginning to end.
That's
We'll
so
be
cool.
the first person that lives in this place. So
Heck yeah.
I'm very, very excited about that.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Living back in downtown where I belong.
Yeah. And for those listening, I mean, you have only done personal training. Like you've ran your business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing I've done. I think a lot of people just think that, and going back to my story, like I think a lot of people think I've just done this my whole life. Like I think that's a lot of people's impression.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and a
you
lot of
look
people,
really
when I tell
fit.
them my story, they're like, I would have never guessed. Like
Yeah.
there's no way that has been your life
Yeah.
or anything. So I think a lot of people just assume like, yeah, I graduated college and then I just got into personal training and I've been doing this for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
Well-
but yes, it is the only thing that I do now
Yeah.
full time. And then I started my online coaching business at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Also.
I love that.
Yeah.
So are you, you know, do you see, I mean, where are you kind of seeing yourself? Like you love Nashville, want to stay in Nashville? Do you want to travel more? Like, cause you travel a lot, right?
I
Like,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
I get to, I've been lucky enough to be able to travel a good deal. Yeah, I do. and we'll see how it goes. I absolutely love working with my people in person.
Yeah.
We'll see where the online coaching goes and transitions because I would love to go to Europe for 3 months and live there or do something like that. Or just go live on the beach. You know me, I'm a very big seasonal depression person.
Yep.
And we're rolling right
into it.
October where I go to work and it's dark outside and I generally get off and it's dark outside. So I don't see very much sunlight. So by January or February, I'm getting exhausted.
Right.
So yeah, I could see myself going to a beach somewhere, living on a beach. That would definitely be my thing.
Let me ask you this. Because I do want to circle back to this. What was your emotion the day you got let out of prison? What was it? Because at this point, you're going to go back to live with your parents.
I think it was a lot. Yeah, I was going back to live in a halfway house. So I had a halfway house sentence of 9 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was going.
Did they not give you like an early behavior? You didn't like smile at them. You didn't shine that light. You know what I mean?
As cute as I am, no, they did. Well, in the federal system, you serve 85% of your sentence. Okay. And then with my behavior to begin with, I'd gotten some of my good time taken away. So I was sentenced to 12 years and 7 months, and I ended up doing about 10 and a half years in prison, and then I had a 9-month halfway house sentence after that. So it was a little over, I did a little over 11 years on a 12 and a half year sentence.
Okay.
So, yes, the charge was possession of cocaine with intent to distribute. So.
I just feel like that's excessive. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they attributed a lot of other stuff to me. And,
so they tacked.
So they tacked some stuff onto me also for my unwillingness to help them out.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Just make it a little extra.
And you don't regret that at all.
No, that is probably, when people learn my story, that is probably one of the most often asked questions. Like, they don't know where to go with it because most people are just like, I don't know. And then they're like, do you regret it? And because of the way my life has turned out, I think maybe because of the way my life has turned out, but more so because of the lessons that I've learned from everything. I don't regret it one bit.
Okay.
Right.
And as long
I
as
think
you're
if I would
good
have gotten
with
a slapper on the wrist, and I may not have learned my lesson, I may have ended up right back in the same situation, maybe different people, maybe the same people. I don't know that I was in. And I don't know that I ever would have corrected myself or actually learned who I was and what I was actually made of.
Yeah.
So.
And I think something beautiful about your story, and I love that you were able to share with us even just, this part, but that you are continually working on yourself. You're not just like,
Always.
I'm here at because again, you're low in body fat. You look great. You could be that kind of douchebag trainer. You know what I mean? You could live that life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do. I used to be like, it must be nice to be able to go and do all these things and whatever. But then it's you have found what works for you.
Yeah.
And you also are showcasing to your clients that you can live a little bit and also enjoy, a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's my biggest thing. I don't want them to feel like you have to stop drinking altogether or stop having fun or enjoying that party or enjoying that dinner or whatever. You should 80 to 90% of the time, dedicate yourself to taking care of your body.
Yes.
You only have one to live in for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
The majority of my clients have kids and grandkids. So if they want to be happy and healthy and energetic and be able to take care of them, they need to be able to take care of their body. But they shouldn't have to turn down the cocktail party or the birthday or the dinner to celebrate something or anything like that. They should be able to go and enjoy that.
Yes.
Still feel comfortable, still love the way that they look, and still have plenty of energy to just kill their careers like most of them do. All of the above. There's no reason you can't have all of the above if you give some attention and thinking to the way that you live your life intentionally
For sure.
every day.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
So,
We'll end it on that note. So I really appreciate you coming
Great.
on, Nate. And
thank you so much for having me.
I wish you all the best. And I know everything's going to be great moving forward. So,
Thank you.
yay! This one's much better.
That was great. Yeah, I figured you would like a reposado better.